Hi, my name is Magali, and for Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, I picked or I was handled the Tinglet Potlatch, the Pacific Northwest. And for this, I've created a menu which I learned more interesting things. For example, the Tinglets will look for wild celery, wild crab apples, and wild assortments of berries for their vitamin C's, as this lacked in calcium and vitamin that they mostly obtain in meat or fish, as that was their primary food diet. Specifically, salmon is a primary food in a tinglet diet. The salmon would is usually captured with a fishing wire, which helps the fishermen catch more salmon with less to little efforts. The salmon, as well as the halibut, cod, bullhead, flounder, shark, and marine mammals, consist of their protein diet. I also learned as well a traditional way that the Tinglet process their fish is by roasting fresh fish over fire, freezing them, or dried and smoked them for preservation. The smoking of the salmon is also used to provide food to others in the community, not just the actual fishermen that went fishing for them. They would also make sure that their tribe was able to get enough supply of fish to feed everybody. Another one that I worked on was tailgating. And tailgating parties usually or sometimes occur before or after a game in a parking lot or a stadium. Um, the traditional tailgating consists of grilling various food, in particular like hot dogs, hamburgers, and consuming alcohol and non-alcoholic beverages. The fans usually celebrate their love and passion for the game. The tailgating is a ritual is to it's like joining other strangers, bypassers, just to celebrate their favorite team or their passion and love for a sport or just for a specific event. Um, and this was pretty interesting because I've never thought that tailgating was an actual thing, but I it does appear to be something that is more frequent. So it was something new that I learned.
So I have a question regarding your first on the fish that you had talked about for the Tinglet potlatch.
Yes.
Did they freeze their fish, or did they fish every day? And so every day they had fresh fish?
Well, they when they went fishing, they use fishing wire. So they actually caught a lot of fish. So they I guess when they went fishing, it's when it was the season for the fishing. So they would fish a large quantity to make sure that it lasted long enough. But it was fresh fish, so they caught it fresh and then they prepared it to preserve it so it would last long until the next time that they would go fishing.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I
Yeah.
guess they take it really serious when it's fishing season. I was watching a video and it really mentioned that when it's time to go fish, it's time to go fish.
Yeah.
There is no buts about it, and it's all hands on deck. They made it look very, very serious when it was fishing time. I'm like, oh, it's something new, but interesting at least.
Yeah.
And on the tailgating part, is that for like all types of events, or did you just read about sporting events?
I read the sporting events, but I did read something just briefly about that there is like an opera that usually, as a custom or a ritual, has a tailgating every time they have a show or before the show. Anytime they have a show that they're going to present, before the show, they always have a tailgating. So I guess it's not just football, but
Mm,
other.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Cheryl. I'm going to talk about my two menu items, and the first one that I had was the Hawaiian poi menu. So poi is a sticky nutritious food that they make. It's pounded from a taro root, and it's sweet in flavor. It has a consistency of bread dough, but it's very healthy. It's fat-free, high in fiber, low in sodium, it's gluten-free, has vitamin B's, calcium, phosphorus, and it's been a food staple in Hawaii for many, many years. So how they cook the poi is they steam it in an underground steamer, which I found interesting. And once it's cooked, it turns purple. And then the root is placed on a flat wood board and it's mashed with a stone. And they add water to it to make that consistency more like a bread dough. And then what they do is they put it into a bowl that's usually lined with, it looked like a leaf, like maybe a banana leaf or something. And then they dip their 2 fingers into the poi and they eat it that way, which I found odd because I just didn't think it was very sanitary, but that's how they eat it, was with their fingers. So the Hawaiians are trying to keep that tradition going because they did a lot of poi back in the 1800s, and they would serve it with every single meal. But then there was a taro shortage back in 1920, so they had built new houses on all of the taro fields because they were all flat. But some of the people in Hawaii, most of the natives, want to bring the poi back. So they're trying. These people who bought these plots that are flat, they're trying to get them to grow the poi in the back so that they can continue to grow the poi. High school kids are the ones who actually mash the poi. So outside of the school, I guess it's a prestigious high school, they sit in the back of the school and they mash the poi. And they're very picky about it. You can't have any cuts on your fingers. The girls have to tie their hair back because they don't want hair in their poi. So it's interesting. The poi can last a couple of days, but it starts to ferment. So it's similar to like bread dough. So it was that was an interesting thing. I'd like to try it just to see what it would taste like. It's very, very expensive because after I saw it, I went online to see what how much it cost, and it's like almost $100 for a real small portion of the poi. But if I ever have the opportunity to go to Hawaii, I'm going to try it.
Hey, I would like to join you. You could take me with you. We can go explore the world.
We can go to
I pretty much, I kind of like the fact that that teenagers are the ones that are kind of starting this up again.
Yeah.
Well, and how particular they are, like, you can't have cuts in your hands and in the girls and stuff. Cultural-wise, I think that's pretty awesome, and it's nice that they took the initiative and that at least it's something good that they're doing, and they're using their time for something good and something productive. So sounds good.
It was interesting. So my other one was the Japanese rice menu. So rice is very important to the Japanese people. It's actually referred to as the essence of their culture. It's a regular staple, so they eat it with every meal, including breakfast. And they eat rice like Americans eat energy bars. They form rice balls, and they take the rice balls along with them, and they snack on them. And they think of it as if you don't have rice on your table or in your house, that the rice, it's almost like having no food.
Wow.
So the farmers, I guess farming rice is very labor intensive, so they do it as a family. So families live in clusters in Japan, and what they do is they try to build their houses on a hill so that the first person who's watering the rice fields, the water will drip down into the next field, and then it'll drip down into the next field, so they're all sharing the water supply, which was interesting. But they all work together as a family. They all have meetings together. It's almost like working for an organization, but it's all with families. So they had their rituals with that was, and their traditions was, there was a Shinto religion, and the emperor's job was to guard all of these rice fields. And then he would pray over them every single day, and then watch the weather, make sure it wasn't getting too cold, too hot, too much rain, things like that. And and I found this to be interesting too, is the U.S. prefer long grain fluffy rice that doesn't stick together, but the Japanese like the short grain rice that does stick together. And with their rice, they can make rice vinegar, rice wine, sushi, and rice cakes, which is an annual tradition for the Japanese to eat rice cakes on New Year's Day. So this was interesting to me too, and actually I was hoping I was going to get this because I do have an aunt that's, she's not Japanese, she's from Thailand, and she does make rice balls, and every time she lives out in Tennessee, but she comes to visit for a couple of weeks every year. She does make rice balls all the time, except she does use the long grain rice. So I'm gonna, when she comes up this fall, I'm gonna talk to her about that, the long grain versus the short grain, and see what the real difference is. But it's interesting.
That is interesting. I'm Puerto Rican, so for me, growing up, my mom always preferred the long grain, and we always cook long grain. So I always cook long grain. I don't even know the difference from the long grain with the short grain because I've never bought the short grain because I like no long grain. So I've always been in the long grain that I don't even know. I don't know. It's like I go to the store and I'm like, no, I can't buy that one because it doesn't work. But I don't know why it doesn't work because I've never tried it.
Well, next time I go to the grocery store, I'm buying the short grain just to try it. That's what I'm going to do.
That makes sense on how they can eat it with their chopsticks now. If the short grain tends to stick a little better together.
Yep. And they make them into balls, and they all have rice steamers. Do you guys have a rice steamer?
I do. I love it.
Yeah. So they all use they probably have more than one rice steamer. I know I have two, only because my husband bought me one and my aunt bought me one, but they cook all of their rice in rice steamers.
It's a difference. Can you tell a difference, the rice steamer versus on the stove?
Absolutely. And you know what? It's easier to cook it in a rice steamer. You throw it in, you turn it on, and you're done.
You're done. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never tried it that way because that's not the way I was taught to cook it. I was taught to leave on the stove for it.
It would especially help you, being that you have kids and you're always on the go, go, go. All you got to do is pop it in there, and some of them even have steamers. I know mine has like a steamer where I can steam my vegetables as the rice cooks too.
Yeah, mine does too. Yeah.
I just learned how to use the crock pot like literally 6 months ago. I'm like, oh my God, like who invented this? Like I want to thank them. Obviously it's been here for a long time, but it just came to me about 6 months ago.
Oh wow. Been missing out.
You need to get out more.
I think I do. I need new friends to tell me the easier stuff.
Okay, so my name is Tabitha Estes, and I had the Hindu wedding food. Okay, I found out that the coconut they use during the ritual, it is a symbol of prosperity, and it's an offering to ensure that the marriage was blessed. They also use a paste of like cumin seed and brown sugar. What they do is they crush it together and they place it in a betel leaf. Then they place the leaf on the bride and the groom's head, and the mixture represents bitterness and sweetness of life. Rice is also a major thing in the wedding ceremony. It represents saintance. What they do is they sprinkle turmeric color rice as a blessing on the bride and the groom. There are so many different kinds of Hindu. I didn't know that you have North, Coastal, South. There's so many different kinds. So the North Indian Hindu, they prefer like your butter chicken and your lamb curry. Those are like your expensive dishes. If you have those there in the reception after the ceremony, then you're considered wealthy far off. The Coastal Hindu, they have chicken and lamb, but they also include more of like your seafood, like crab and fish curries. And the South Hindu, they usually don't do meat. They usually have a complete vegetarian. Most of these rituals include 100+ dishes, different types of dishes. And the plate of choice that they have is called a banana leaf. There's lots of different rice dishes that they use. One was like a lemon rice dish, a curd rice. It's so many different kinds. I couldn't write them down all. Also, halva, I think is how you pronounce it. It's a definite must. A moon dial is a universal favorite because it tends to be the most expensive as well. And also, they have this other thing called, I think it's barfi. It's also common. It comes in a billion flavors, and that can make up half of your 100 dishes that you have to have for your reception there. And the last thing I have for this is the Mindia or the chai infused cake is normally what they have as far as your wedding cake goes, instead of the traditional wedding cake that we see at our wedding receptions.
So they have 100 dishes for a wedding reception?
100+ dishes, yes. I thought that was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Did you say that's a must?
I'm sorry?
Did you say that's a must? They must have over 100 dishes?
Yes, that is in their culture. They have to have 100+ dishes.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a lot of cooking.
Definitely.
A lot of money. That's what
Did you have any more questions on that one?
No, that's good. Go ahead. We were just
Okay. The other one I had was the Pennsylvania Dutch cuisine. There's a lot of interesting things that I found out on this one. This is actually a, let's see, I typed out some of these notes. It's a culture of people who came from Germany and Switzerland in the 17th and 18th centuries, and they settled in southeastern and south center Pennsylvania. Buckwheat Dutch, is considered poor, where they rarely ate meat, and they actually got by on what they called hairy dumplings, which was made with shredded potatoes that stuck out when the dumplings were boiled. They have quite a few different types of dishes. Of course, they have the huckleberries. Let's see what else here. Most of the meals incorporated the fresh produce. They had abundance of that. And they also, it was a part of the region's tradition was to avoid waste whenever possible. So, and they also, I found interesting, was that they incorporate parts of animals that most people would not even imagine consuming. Yeah. The average traditional meal had tons of dishes. They have some of the dishes. Let me give you some examples. Of course, they have your traditional apple butter and your apple fritters. I'm sure we are all well familiar with that. They also were the makers of the funnel cake. It considered to be a Pennsylvania Dutch tradition, and it was a rare holiday treat until it eventually got turned into a fundraiser, and now it's offered all the time. They have some dishes called like chow chow, which is a mixture of different vegetables and cabbage and carrots and beans. It's a combination and like pickled in a jar, and it's served cold. They also, what I found interesting was for breakfast they have apple dumplings, and that is like a more popular Amish food. And it's, peeled and cored apples filled with cinnamon sugar and wrapped in dough. And the dumplings is baked until tendered. And then, like, for their main courses, they have, I'm sorry if I butcher this because I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's called Body Boya. It's basically a specialty stew, and it has a combination of, like, chicken, ham, beef, homemade like sugar cut egg noodles, potatoes, stock of onions, celery, carrots, stuff like that. And they also, let me go back to this. They are widely known for their soups. They have tons of different types of soups. They divide them into different categories. One is called a sipply or little soup, which is a light broth. Or they have a cup super, or what they call a cup soup, or a soupy, which is like a thick chowder. They do one-pot dishes like gumbus. They would dip like chunks of bread into the pot, as a meal, and then they also have what is this? I can't even pronounce that. I'm not even gonna go over that. And I guess that's about it. Or also they had the Hassan. It's basically what it is. It's rabbit braised in wine, and that was considered their expensive dish. And I think that's about it for that one. Do you guys have any questions?
Not on that now.
That's on the go right now.
Okay. So I think we also need to chat about how these anthropologist words were used in our menus. And I know most of mine were all rituals. Everything that fell under both the Hawaiian poi and the Japanese rice menu, it was all rituals. I mean, they had it for breakfast, had it for lunch, had it for dinner, had it for snacks, for both the poi and the rice menu. They both grow their own. They want to keep it going, in both countries, the Hawaiian and in Japan.
For mine, I would have to say the potlatch was rituals and also symbolism. I did find that they also use like the salmon as an image. It's something that like they engraved like in wood, and it was also an image that they use like in their clothing. So they use like salmon, also like a bird. They use that as symbolism as well. The potlatch, I guess, also wants to reinforce the rituals as well, just to make sure that that it doesn't go away. And the tailgating was, I would say, a lot of rituals. I think, like for example, the one in the opera, I think they the way they explained it, how I understood it is, it's kind of like they couldn't have an opera show without having the ritual. I mean, the tailgating. So it was kind of like, I don't know, I guess like some people pray before they have dinner kind of thing. That's how I kind of pictured it in my head. So I would say ritual on that one as well.
Okay. For mine, I would definitely say ritual and symbolism for the Hindu wedding. It had lots of different types, like the coconut being a symbol of prosperity, and then the paste of the cummin and brown sugar. That's basically, blessing, or it's representing the bitterness and sweetness of life. And like the rice, of course, that was to bless the bride and the groom. So I definitely say that had lots of ritual and symbolism. As far as the Pennsylvania Dutch, I would say that had a lot of symbolism in it, beings that it had, and I would say subculture too, because there was a lot of different things that were Pennsylvania Dutch, but it also seemed like the Amish was kind of incorporated in it as well.
Well, they are so close together, so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anything else?
And then I think we need to discuss the last thing about the final project on who's going to do what.
Yep. So in going through our final, I'll take on A. So
Okay.
I'll be writing on that, and I'll also do D.
I'll take B.
And I'll do C. And then once we get this completed, then I guess we'll just go ahead and email it to you, Cheryl, and then you can compile it into one, and then we'll go over it.
Yep, so I'll send that to you. Like I said, I had a wedding to go to on Friday, so I'll work on it on Saturday. I'll try and get it out to you Saturday or Sunday. You guys can review it, send it back to me, and then I'll submit it in with our project.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Okay.
And we'll have this, what did we say? We would have our part to you no later than Friday, right?
Right.
Okay.
So I can work on it over the weekend.
Gotcha.
Correct. And I already emailed you the, I think I told you this earlier, my menu and my menus and the field log, and then I'll just work on the definitions on B, and I'll try to do that, kind of get it to you by tomorrow to kind of give you some time, but definitely by Friday, so
Okay.
you could work through it, and then can we say maybe we can expect a rough draft Sunday, maybe Monday?
I'm hoping for Sunday.
Okay.
If I get a chance Saturday morning, I'll work on it, and maybe even Saturday. So it'll be Saturday or Sunday, for sure.
All right. So I just want, so like that I could just, pay attention to my email. So I'll just make sure I keep an eye out on that just in case it does come in early. If not, it's fine.
Okay.
As long as we all agree on it, I'm good with that.
Okay.
That works. I'm going to
Alright.
stop the broadcast.